Hi, I'm Emma John. Growing up, I never knew my biological parents. The orphanage was my home until I was adopted at age 7 by the Wimes, a middle-class family who gave me all the love I could ask for. But deep inside, questions about my birth parents lingered like shadows in my mind. Emma, sweetheart, you have a visitor. Mrs. Liu, my adoptive mother, called out one autumn morning when I was 28. I was sorting through old photographs, a hobby that helped me piece together my fractured past. Looking up, I saw a distinguished older man in an impeccable suit standing in our modest living room. "Hello, Emma," he said, his voice trembling slightly. "I'm James Chen, and I'm your father." That meeting changed everything. James explained how my mother died in childbirth, and in his grief, he'd given me up for adoption. Now, after years of searching and regret, he wanted to reconnect. But he had one unusual request. "I want to get to know you properly," he said, "but I'd like to keep our relationship private for now. I have complicated business matters to settle first." I agreed, touched by his sincerity and understanding his need for discretion. What I didn't know then was how this decision would lead to one of the most dramatic chapters of my life. 3 years later, I met Michael Wu at a local coffee shop. He was charming, kind, and seemingly different from his wealthy family. We fell in love, and after a whirlwind romance, got married in a simple ceremony. That's when I met his mother, Victoria Wu. From the moment she laid eyes on me, Victoria made her disapproval clear. The Wu family was old money, and in her eyes, I was nothing but a common girl from a middle-class background. "Michael," she said during our first dinner together, her voice dripping with disdain, "couldn't you have found someone more suitable?" Michael squeezed my hand under the table but said nothing. It was the first of many times he would choose silence over standing up to his mother. I kept my relationship with James private, even from Michael. My biological father had become a cherished part of my life, meeting regularly for quiet dinners and long talks. He shared stories about my mother, showed me old photographs, and helped me understand where I came from. But he was still dealing with complex business matters and asked for continued discretion. Victoria's behavior grew worse over time. She constantly reminded me of my common background and made sure I felt like an outsider at every family gathering. The breaking point came during the annual Wu family reunion at Victoria's sprawling mansion. As guests arrived in designer outfits and expensive cars, Victoria pulled me aside. "Listen carefully," she hissed. "The cleaning service canceled last minute. Since you're used to manual labor, you'll help maintain appearances today. The cleaning supplies are in the kitchen." I stood there stunned. "You want me to clean during the family reunion?" "Well, it's not like you'll be missing any important conversations," she smirked. "Know your place, Emma." Michael overheard, but merely looked away, his face flushed with embarrassment. Just do it, Emma. You know how mother gets." Fighting back tears, I headed to the kitchen. For the next 2 hours, I cleaned while wealthy relatives pretended not to see me. Victoria made sure to point out spots I'd missed loudly enough for everyone to hear. "Emma, dear," she called out mockingly, "you've missed a spot on the window. But I suppose attention to detail isn't taught in public schools." The relatives tittered with laughter. Michael buried his face in his phone, pretending not to hear. Then Victoria decided to make a show of it. "Everyone, isn't it wonderful? My daughter-in-law is so helpful. She's finding her true calling as our housekeeper." More laughter echoed through the mansion. I gripped the cleaning cloth tightly, fighting back tears. That's when the doorbell rang. Victoria's face lit up. "Oh, that must be James Chen. I've been trying to get him to attend our gatherings for years." The room buzzed with excitement. James Chen was one of the city's most prominent businessmen, known for his billions but rarely seen in public. Victoria rushed to open the door herself. "Mr. Chen, what an honor to—" Her voice trailed off as James walked in, his eyes scanning the room until they found me, still holding the cleaning supplies. "Emma," he said, his voice tight with controlled anger. "What's going on here?" Victoria looked between us, confused. "Oh, you know my daughter-in-law?" "Know her." James's voice could have frozen fire. "She's my daughter." The silence that fell over the room was absolute. Victoria's face drained of color. "Your daughter," she whispered. "Yes," James said, walking over to me. "My only child and heir to everything I've built. And I'd like to know why she's being treated like a servant in your home." Victoria stammered. We didn't. I mean, I've been watching, James continued, his voice growing harder. Watching how you've treated my daughter for months. I wanted to see your true character, Victoria, and you show it quite clearly. Michael finally found his voice. Mr. Chen, I had no idea Emma was your daughter. Would it have mattered? James cut him off. Would you have stood up for your wife if you didn't know her father was wealthy? Should that make any difference? The shame on Michael's face said everything. James turned to address the stunned room. Let me be clear. Emma is my daughter and heir to the Chen fortune. She's been raised with values that clearly exceed those taught in this household. And now, he placed a gentle hand on my shoulder. Now it's time for some changes. Victoria suddenly switched tactics, her voice honey-sweet. Oh, Emma, why didn't you tell us? We would have welcomed you properly. This was all just a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding. I found my voice at last. Like when you told the family I was probably a gold digger? Or when you spread rumors about my background? Or just now, when you forced me to clean while everyone watched and laughed? Victoria stuttered. Emma, James said quietly, would you like to leave? I looked at Michael, still silent and shrinking in the corner. Then at Victoria, her face a mask of desperate calculation. Finally, at the relatives who had laughed at my humiliation minutes ago. Yes, I said firmly, I would. As we walked toward the door, Victoria called out desperately, wait, please, we can discuss this as a family. James turned back, his expression cold. Family? You've shown exactly what family means to you, Victoria, and now you'll learn what it means to us. We left them standing there, the proud Wu family suddenly looking very small in their massive mansion. In the car, James finally spoke again. I'm sorry, Emma. I wanted to see how they treated you without my influence. I needed to know. I understand, I said quietly. But what did you mean about them learning what family means to us? A small smile crossed his face. Well, it seems the Wu family's real estate holdings are heavily leveraged, and it just so happens that their loans are through Chen Banking Corporation. I looked at him, understanding dawning. Sometimes, he continued, karma needs a little help. As we drove away from the mansion, I felt a strange mixture of sadness and liberation. The facade had cracked, revealing the truth beneath the surface. But this was just the beginning. Victoria Wu was about to learn that true power isn't in humiliating others, it's in how you handle having it. And I had a feeling the lessons were just beginning. The next morning, my phone exploded with messages. Michael had called 20 times, Victoria 12. Even Michael's father, Thomas Wu, who had always been quietly complicit in his wife's behavior, tried to reach me. I sat in my father's penthouse office, watching the city buzz below while he made some calls. The audit of Wu Enterprises is complete, he said, hanging up his phone. It's worse than we thought. They've been operating on loans and appearances for years. What do you mean? James settled into his chair. Victoria's grand lifestyle, the mansion, the parties, the designer clothes, it's all built on debt. They've been borrowing against their properties for years, using each loan to pay off the previous one. Classic house of cards. My phone buzzed again. Another message from Michael. Please, Emma, let's talk about this. Mother is beside herself. I'm sure she is, I thought bitterly. What happens now? I asked James. Now, he smiled slightly. Now we watch what happens when the cards fall. That afternoon, Victoria received notice that Chen Banking Corporation was calling in all Wu family loans for immediate review. Their accounts were frozen pending investigation. Within hours, she was at the Chen Corporation building, demanding to see James. Mrs. Wu is here, his assistant announced, trying not to smile. She's quite insistent. Send her in, James said, as I sat quietly in the corner of his office. Victoria burst in, designer handbag swinging. This is outrageous. You can't do this to us. Actually, James replied calmly, I can and I am. Please, sit down. I will not. How dare you freeze our accounts? Do you know who we are? Yes, I spoke up from my corner. You're the woman who made her daughter-in-law clean her mansion during a family gathering. Victoria whirled around, face paling when she saw me. Emma, I was just coming to apologize about that unfortunate misunderstanding. Unfortunate misunderstanding? James's voice was steel. Let's review some other misunderstandings, shall we? He opened a folder on his desk. Last Christmas, you told Emma she couldn't join the family vacation because, quote, servants should know their place. At Michael's birthday, you seated her in the kitchen with the staff. When she was sick last month, you told Michael he should have married someone with better breeding. Victoria sank into a chair, her bravado deflating. How did you? I've had people watching, James said simply, documenting everything. You see, Victoria, when I found my daughter after 21 years, I wanted to know exactly what kind of family she had married into. We can work this out, Victoria stammered. The Wu family has been respected for generations. Respected? I cut in, or feared. How many others have you humiliated, Victoria? How many people have you stepped on to maintain your precious image? The door opened and Thomas Wu hurried in, followed by Michael. James, please, Thomas began. Surely we can. Can what? James interrupted. Can pretend none of this happened. Can go back to watching you all abuse my daughter. Michael stepped forward. Mr. Chen, I love Emma. I never meant. Never meant what? I stood up. Never meant to let your mother treat me like dirt. Never meant to stay silent while she humiliated me. Love without respect isn't love. Michael, it's convenience. Victoria suddenly switched tactics. Emma, dear, your family. We can start fresh. I'll throw you a proper welcome party. Family? I laughed bitterly. Yesterday I was the help. Today I'm family. Is that how it works? James cleared his throat. Here's what's going to happen. The Wu properties will be thoroughly audited. Any irregularities will be reported to the proper authorities. The loans will be restructured at significant cost to you. But the mansion, Victoria whispered. Our homes will need to be sold to cover your debts, James finished. You've been living beyond your means for years, Victoria. It ends now. Michael stepped toward me. Emma, please. Don't do this. We can work things out. I looked at him, really looked at him. The man I had loved, who had never once stood up for me. You know what hurts the most, Michael? It's not the cleaning. It's not the humiliation. It's that you watched it all happen and did nothing. I was trying to keep the peace, he protested. No, I said quietly, you were choosing the easy path. And now you can keep choosing it, right through our divorce. Victoria let out a small shriek. Divorce? You can't. Actually, James interjected, she can and she will. And given the prenuptial agreement Michael signed, he has no claim to any Chen family assets. Thomas finally spoke up. This will ruin us. No, I said firmly. Your choices ruined you. This is just the bill coming due. Over the next few weeks, the Wu family's carefully constructed facade crumbled. The mansion went on the market. Victoria's designer clothes and jewelry were sold to cover debts. The truth about their financial house of cards became public knowledge. Michael sent me one final message. I'm sorry I wasn't stronger. You deserve better. At least he finally got something right. 6 months later, I stood in my father's office again, but this time I wasn't watching the city below. I was reviewing plans for the Emma Chen Foundation, a new organization dedicated to supporting adopted children and their families. The first center opens next month, I told James. We'll provide counseling, educational support, and resources for families. He smiled proudly. Your mother would have loved this. I heard Victoria Wu now works as a real estate agent, selling the same kind of luxury homes she once owned. Michael moved to another city to start fresh. Their mansion was converted into a community center, funded by the Emma Chen Foundation. Sometimes I drive past it on my way to work. The gardens where I once held cleaning supplies now host children's playgroups. The grand dining room where I was humiliated is a classroom where kids learn to code. James comes with me sometimes, watching as I teach coding classes to adopted children. You know, he said recently, revenge is usually empty. But what you've done here, turning pain into purpose, that's real power. I looked at the children in my classroom, each one carrying their own stories of belonging and searching. The West thought power meant putting others down, I replied. But real power is lifting others up. Last week, I received an invitation to a Wu family gathering. Apparently, they're trying to rebuild their social connections. On the same day, I was also invited to speak at a national adoption advocacy conference. I sent my regrets to the WUS. Some chains don't need to be maintained. Standing at the conference podium, sharing my story with hundreds of families, I finally understood. Sometimes life's greatest gifts come wrapped in its deepest wounds. The pain of rejection led me to my true path. The search for belonging helped me create a place where others could belong. And that mansion? It's not just a building anymore. It's a symbol of transformation, proof that even the grandest monuments to cruelty can become sanctuaries of hope. As for Victoria, well, I heard she recently showed a house to one of my foundation's board members. Apparently, she didn't recognize him. He said she kept talking about how she used to move in much higher circles. Some people never learn, but their lessons can teach us all. Looking back, I realized that true family isn't about mansions or money or maintaining appearances. It's about love that lifts, courage that transforms, and hearts that grow bigger through breaking. The sun sets over my foundation's community center, the former Wu Mansion, painting its windows gold. Inside, children laugh and learn. Families find support, and hope grows like the gardens Victoria once prized. Tomorrow brings new challenges, new stories, new opportunities to transform pain into purpose. But tonight, I'm at peace, because sometimes the best revenge isn't about getting even. It's about getting better, and that's a lesson worth cleaning any mansion to learn.